That's nothing today. It's like a classroom. There's a quiz at the end.
It's there too if anybody needs to take notes.
If anyone needs notes about their pens, did not come to class prepared, we got you.
Quiz afterwards.
No, you take.
Here, we can share. We'll share.
Well, is this on?
Is this on? It's on.
Oh, it is on.
Gentlemen, well, thank you guys all for showing up and coming to play with us. We're all very excited, especially there's a couple in the back that had no idea, and we just told them they got very happy.
I had no idea about what.
That we were getting these two bonus
The
people.
bonus, yeah, bonus.
I know.
Yeah.
We love to crash, Doug.
I am all about it, by the way.
He's gotten used to it. Yeah.
Yeah. You know, so right off the bat, guys, we would love to know about your audition for Hocus Pocus. How did it go down? How'd you get involved? I want to know all the deets.
Okay, well, I'll start then. Okay. For me, it was a call from my manager. Had a relationship business. He knew Kenny Ortega, the director. Kenny Ortega comes from a dance background. He was a choreographer before he was a film director, and he wanted to audition the Billy Butcherson characters in a dance studio, which I thought was like, what? In a dance studio? What's that gonna involve? Well, I found out why when I got there. Yeah, he's like, start way over there, and you're gonna lie down on the floor like you're in a grave, and then wake up and stumble over this way, and then look up in the sky and say something horrible to a witch flying in the air. I'm like, okay, got it. Yeah. So I did that, and he put some music on so I could get that, something like the Monster Mash or something, so I could get into the spirit of like, So I woke up and started going like kind of creaky bones and like. Anyway, he threw his head back laughing, and I felt like, I think I got this. Okay? Yeah. So that was my story. Go.
I've got my own personal mic, Doug, thank you. I bring my own mic. COVID regulations.
Wow.
I've always got a mic. Usually it's just a head mic and a washer down.
It's a Mr. Mike.
So for me, it was, I had been doing the audition thing for a little while. I started when I was like 12 years old. So I was 17 when I got this audition, and I was very excited about it because I knew who was involved, and it was very nerve-wracking, but I had just come off of not too long after high school for me. I'd done the musical Grease, and I portrayed the role of Sonny, who is kind of basically Ice. He has the kind of bully laugh, sarcastic. So I kind of utilized that in that audition, and it was several weeks before I heard anything back. That's kind of how it began, and then a few weeks later, I guess they'd done a national search and got back to LA and picked their picks, and Tobias and I ended up at the callback together, and there was just us two, right?
Yeah.
Take it away, Tobias.
Are you set? He's being very nice. What he's doing is he's setting up to not reveal. Yeah, my audition story. I love my audition story for Hocus Pocus because it was my very first film audition. I was a kid in Santa Barbara, which is about an hour and a half north of LA, doing community theater, and some Disney scouts had come to a local production, and then in a roundabout way, it led to this audition on the Disney lot in LA. And it was one of those, we call them cattle calls, where a lot of people are coming in, and of course to me it was all just very exciting and fun. And I remember, back then, these were the days when, you had the rotary phone that plugged into a wall. Yeah. And then there were the voice, the little mini cassettes, and I remember the message that I received a call back. And I remember my father drove me, to me it was all exciting, just driving to LA, getting stuck in traffic. Oh wow, stuck in traffic. Yeah. And
How exciting.
Yeah.
I
remember going to the callback. I went to the callback. They let us on the lot, and then we found out that the audition had been rescheduled. And so we went to the Burbank Mall. I remember that. And then a few weeks after that was the official callback, and I remember going into the room and immediately liking Mr. Larry Bagby, wearing his short cut-off jean,
My bully vest,
jacket,
they're
his
called.
bully vest with the white T-shirt, and the casting director left us alone in the room for a second, and the guy starts doing head spins on the.
It was the
Yeah.
break dance era.
Yeah.
I had some skills.
Like, I don't know what he's doing, but I don't like this guy. And then they cast us together. It was an amazing beginning, and it kind of carried through the whole film.
And actually, on my Instagram, I posted since I found the Polaroid, or you did. One of us had
Mom saved
of
it.
us
Yeah.
in that callback Polaroid.
They would take the Polaroid every time you auditioned. So,
You posted that too.
yeah.
So, what was a favorite scene for each of you to shoot in Hocus Pocus? Take us back.
Oh, so many. My moments as Billy Butcherson were lovely and fun. I think my first wake up scene has a certain iconic memory to it. With just coming up out of the ground after Bette Midler does her little spell to rise me from the grave. I remember I was buried alive. I was in an actual casket with the bottom made out of like breakaway wood. Yeah, and they piled dirt on top of it. So just enough that I'm a skinny guy. I'm thinking I better bust through this. Because
Your lips are sealed.
no, right, yeah. Yeah, because take two would have been a really long setup to put it back together again, right? So I got one shot at this. So the guy who built the casket, he kind of closed the door on me. He said, "Here's the spot, and here's the spot. That's really where you want to give it a push." I'm like, "Okay." So I'm inside. They're kind of going, and so when action was rolling, I was like, "It worked." And I kind of cleared away everything so I could sit up, and then I remember shaking off the dust and looking at the kids. They screamed at me, and I was like, "What?" And then I added a bit in that was not in the script, and that was like I was so confused, like, what's happening? And look back at my grave. Oh, that was all me. Yeah.
Was there a lot of improv in any of your guys' performances? Or was it pretty much scripted for y'all?
There was some improv. Kenny was really
He encouraged that, yeah.
Yeah, he's like, have fun, play, let's see what happens. And so, we come up with something. Tobias and I had a lot of extra time in between our shoots, and we were in Boston for the first week shooting the graveyard scene. That was the first one. That was the most intimidating because it was our first big scene, and after I had done my first time on it, with the 35 mil lens, and Thora knew all about it. She was like, "Oh, this is your money shot, Larry."
Yeah, Thora Bird, she
can tell you what kind of lens.
Good games and all. She was a
It's
child
like,
actor.
"This is your money shot, Larry." Well, thanks, Thora.
Okay, 11 years old. This is money shot. Well, stick with
Get
me.
used to it, kid. Cigar. But I was very nervous because Kenny pulls me aside, and nicest guy in the world, but he knows what he wants, and he's like, "Larry, this is so wonderful. You just gotta tone it down. It's film. Every little movement, you're not on stage anymore." I'm like, "Oh, maybe I shouldn't have thought about this grease." Bigger than life, but anyway, we had a lot of time to mess around for that second scene, especially. We got to play, and he let us do all that little, "Ooh, I'm Max, I'm a Lily," or wow. All that stuff was kind of improv, and he liked it, and so he shot around that.
The trick-or-treating moment.
Yeah, the trick treating with the pumpkins. Yeah. So we added like a little sketch thing to that.
I mean, this is in front of everybody, but I don't really remember that being improvised.
Really?
I remember the first one, yeah. Like with the Little Leaguers, see, to me, that was a moment of how Kenny Ortega, as a choreographer,
Yeah.
would like, yeah, the way he knew he was going to use the camera, and it's like, that's the thing, he's so good with kids. And I mean, he did that in other films too, like I think Lost Boys, he was the choreographer on that sax scene. Like with the sax player, because I remember, the Joel Schumacher. Yeah. So, because they worked together.
Just before that was Newsies, right? That was the film right before it became iconic.
But maybe it was like, I think that's how he would collaborate with a lot of the actors. Is he wanted he wanted you to bring the kid stuff and the goofiness, or whatever your ideas were, and then he would kind of shape it into however he could.
Move it.
Yeah.
Like a dance. Yeah.
And I will say, I wouldn't call it improv, but I would call it a rewrite that I did at last minute. Near the end of the movie, when I finally cut my mouth open and speak for the first time, was scripted differently than what you see in the movie. Yeah, the original film had me cough out the dust and the moths. Real live moths, by the way. Yeah.
Okay, what?
This is before CG is what it is today.
What?
Yeah. I had like a latex protector cup in there, and then it had a dirt cup in there too, so I blew all of it out at once. And it was a long story about how that didn't take the first time. Moths have to be really dry or they won't fly, said the moth trainer that was with them with the net. Yeah, there was a moth trainer on set with us. Yeah, no, he was like a professional with moths. I know.
Right?
Yeah, he had to fly a certain direction. I had to get my mouth at a certain angle, so they would do that. And then, so anyway, a lot of but once that's out, the script had me just look up at Bette Midler floating in the sky, going, "Benny, get him!" You know. And I was just gonna cut my mouth open and go, "Bitch." That's what the script says. But I was like, "Ooh, Disney kids film." I would rather have another heroic moment here where the kids know I'm on their side without that. So I came up with what I said. Can I go on a little more of a rant that's still harsh, but like not quite as. So that's where, winch, trollop, you fucking to the monk like a firefly from hell! We had sentence to say that.
I have a trivia question for our audience here, since we're talking about this stuff. You all know the Disney version, right? Does anyone know who wrote the original screenplay? Horror guy. No?
Of Hocus Pocus?
Mick Garrison?
Yes, Mick Garris.
Garris.
Critters, The Stand, everything else you've ever seen ever. Well, the effects guys and the producers did Chucky, so this is like a Chucky family too. So yes, so this was originally conceived as like a hardcore, medium hardcore horror film, and then
Maybe a
Disney got
touchstone.
it.
Yeah, Disney got it. Okay, I'm gonna say.
So that must have been left over from.
Well, whatever happened, the formula worked.
Yes.
Because 29 years later, it still holds up.
I mean, they got away with talking about that black virgin candle, which I had somebody I worked with. She was probably in her 20s, and we did a Chili's commercial or something together. She found out I was in Hocus Pocus, and she's like, "I love that movie, and I also really hate it." And I'm like, "Why?" She said, "Because this is how my parents taught me about the birds and the bees." She asked the question. Yeah. Oh, I'm so sorry. Yeah. So was I.
Spoiler alert.
Honey, we've got a black flame candle. We're gonna test it every year.
Don't let her.
So, tell me, what is it like that we're still talking about Hocus Pocus? How does it feel to have made such an impact with this movie?
Well, yeah, it's surreal. And because most movies come out big and fade over time, this one came out small and got bigger over time. So we've done the exact opposite. It's all because of you people. Thank you so much. You've kept it alive, and watching it on TV every year in high rotation on the Freeform channel, which was ABC Family before that. Disney Channel as well, ABC ran it.
DVDs, Blu-rays, extra special Blu-rays,
VHS,
4Ks.
DVD, Blu-ray,
X-rays.
4K, X-ray.
Yeah.
All the rays.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then now on Disney Plus streaming, it's just it is everywhere. And the our original fans have grown up, have kids of their own. There's a new generation of fans coming up, and so that was what called for a sequel to be made.
Right.
And so getting to be a part, I wish the boys were in this. Good gosh.
Wait a minute. We're not?
We're not. Yeah. But
Are you?
To reprise the characters 29 years after you did the first one is just an unheard of opportunity. But I'm so relishing doing that.
We just get to ride the coattails on Hocus Pocus
No.
too. We're like, come on, Doug. Doug has been, he's the reason why we're even here, and we don't have to be here even at this panel. We just are here, and he's like, come and hang out.
To join me.
He's the best, and he introduced us to our parents' agents, Cool Waters, and we were just having a blast getting to meet the fans, and you're so good at it, Doug. He's so good. He's so loving. Don't you love Doug Hugs? Doug Hugs.
So before we turn it over to audience questions, because I know there's got to be plenty, we have a podcast, the Dolls of Horror podcast, and we asked our listeners if they had any questions. And one did respond for you specifically, Doug, because we didn't know about you guys. Sorry. They didn't know. I'm sure they would have said something. Bethany wanted me to ask you about the Joan Rivers story. I have no idea what she's talking about. So can you enlighten us?
Can I tell my Joan Rivers story?
Yes!
No, seriously, I've been acting for 36 years. This is my favorite moment of my entire Hollywood experience.
We have to know.
First of all, y'all remember Joan Rivers?
Yes.
Stand-up comedian that I watched when I was a kid, thought she was hilarious, had her own talk show. She reinvented herself several times throughout the decades. She was the one who invented the "Who are you wearing" on the red carpet. That was her.
Yeah.
So she made the red carpet experience even more of a thing. So I thought to myself, if I get interviewed by Joan Rivers at a red carpet event, I will have made it in this world. You know what I mean? So at the Oscars in 2008, it was February, is that right? No, I'm lying to you. 07. February of 07. Pan's Labyrinth was up with 6 nominations, 4 wins, and one of them was for my makeup artist. So I was invited to go to the event. I've not nominated myself, but I was there. I'm on the red carpet, and I'm like, I'm feeling really full of myself. Okay. And so I got interviewed by, the press line was a football field long of people. So I was interviewed by and Entertainment Tonight and the Access Hollywood. Publicist John tugs my shirt, says, Joan Rivers would like to speak with you now. There she was! There she was!
Queen and all her glory.
Yes! Oh! Now, mind you, she's famous for having lots of work done. Right? She talks about it all the time. So in person, it was like, I fought the urge to go tap, tap, tap. Right? She's a wonder of modern science, right? So anyway, so I say hi to her. Oh, it's a good thing you got here early. I can talk. Yeah, I know, because I was kind of a nobody, and I knew that if I got there later in the day, that Tom Hanks would be there, and she'd want to talk to him instead of me, right? So I was there. I was the first actor on the red carpet that night. So I'm petting her shoulder because she was wearing this really un-PC fur. I was like, oh, it's so soft. And she says, isn't this fabulous? It's fabulous, Joan Rivers. So then she's handed a stack of cards that have like a cheat sheet things about Pan's Labyrinth info on it to ask questions. They're at a commercial break, by the way, so we're not on the air yet. Okay, so we have time to her look through the notes, and she goes, "How do you pronounce that?" And I said, "Oh, that's Labyrinth." And she says, "Labyrinth. Did you know that before the movie?" Yeah, a lot of us did. Yeah. So then, now, cameras go live, we're back from commercial break, we're on. She introduces me, we start talking back and forth, and she's asking all the appropriate questions that I knew all the answers to. And then when she's talking to me, I see her eyes kind of glaze over because she's got an earpiece, and there's a producer talking to her from somewhere else going, "Ask him about the makeup." So she goes, I know you've won a lot of crazy makeups in your career. Have you ever had any problems with like skin conditions or rashes or allergies? So I said, oh no, Joan. Thankfully, no. I've of all the things I've worn, I've never had any reactions bad to adhesives or removers or silicone products. When I said the words silicone products, I'm looking at a face stuffed full of right. So I couldn't fight the urge. It's like I said, well, you know what I mean. On live worldwide television. And it's like, get the words back. They were out there. It was too late. So anyway, she said, "Oh, it's too late for me, honey." Oh, yeah, Joan Rivers. Oh my gosh. So anyway, I waited my lifetime to meet her and talk to her, and I insulted her right off the bat.
But it seems like she was okay.
She was totally okay with
took
that.
it.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, she did the setup for years before that.
Right.
Yeah. Well, thank you for letting me tell the Joan Rivers story.
Thank you.
Thank you, Bethany.
Yes. Bethany's not here, but she will see this on video.
Okay, good.
For sure.
I know we have some audience questions out there, so raise your hand high if you have a question. You're right there, sir.
This is for Mr. Jones. How did Star Trek Discovery come to you, and what's it like to be on such an iconic franchise?
Right, Star Trek. Having a 36-year career under rubber bits, you would think Star Trek would be a no-brainer for me at some point along the way, because I've been an actor since many of the shows were on the air and movies were being made. I was like, never any did. So when I was 56 years old when I got a call saying, hey, there's a new Star Trek show. It hadn't been for a series for years. I think Enterprise was the last one, but it was like 2005 maybe. It was a long time before. Does that sound right?
2005.
I think so.
Sounds about right.
And so here we are in 2016 getting this phone call 11 years later going, oh, well, so no audition necessary. They really want you. That just doesn't happen. So I had a meeting with Brian Fuller, who was our showrunner at the time, and they did the whole tap dance, showed me the whole, here's the look of our show, here's what you're gonna look like, here's the props. They go, yeah, what do you think, Doug? What do you think? Script? Here, go home, talk about it. So I was just like full of myself, and very tickled pink to be a part of a franchise that has such a loyal fan following. I mean, I've worked in genres of fandom for all my career now, but Star Trek takes you to this other place with the people who are so. The fans really are a family, and they really do own the franchise. As an actor, you're kind of unwelcome as a guest until you prove yourself, and once you are, then you're kind of welcome to the family. I feel very, very special to be a part of that, and I love playing Saru. Being the first Kelpian in the Star Trek universe means that I got to help develop a new species from the ground up, which, what an honor that is. And I wanted, but the challenge too is to make him memorable and iconic enough that he'll stay in the canon from this point forward. So hope so. Thank you so much for asking.
Anyone else? Sir.
So my question for Doug is, was there any role where you were just thinking the whole time, this is so embarrassing?
I got this, Doug.
Oh my gosh. Oh geez. I don't want to say anything disparaging because this is being recorded. So yeah. Well,
I can edit it out too.
Can you?
Like, I'll totally edit it for you. No problem.
Sure. Okay. I don't know.
You don't have to.
Well, I mean, no, but that's not an embarrassing character. It's a yeah.
Well, how about you can get it at his table?
Well, yeah. But I think I did a couple of aliens on a Babylon 5 spin-off show called Crusade. Thank you, Crusade. And one of them, I started the day standing like this in a makeup trailer, in a G-string, and the rest was all painted and glued on. It was so I had my butt crack kind of showing in that alien character. So like, the whole time I was there, I was like, oh, please don't shoot from the I don't know. And then, other ones, but I don't want any young filmmakers that I worked for to be like, oh, you hated my movie? Really? I've been honored to be in a lot of things, and I always take that as a huge compliment, and I see the love, and I don't want to say anything bad about any characters I play, but thank you.
You, sir, all the way in the back with the hat.
I just want to say thanks to all three of you guys for coming. It means a lot for all the fans to meet you. It's an honor. And my question is for Doug. I was wondering, we have, Scorsese and DiCaprio. We've got Nolan, and Bale. And then we have you and GDT, like some of the greatest partnerships ever. I was just wondering if you could just share a brief, kind of a funny tale, like a candid moment with Guillermo.
Oh, I've a lifetime of moments. I've known the man for 25 years now. Guillermo del Toro is my favorite director I've ever worked with, and every other director knows that, and they're okay with that because they all respect him that much. But he's when you meet him, he kind of sums you up quickly. When he can get a vibe on your personality, your quirks, your strengths, your weaknesses. So as an actor, that's a really genius thing to have a director who knows that much about you. And he gets a whole button system set up so he knows what to push on the day to get the right thing out of you. So you develop a shorthand with him very quickly. So I would say on Hellboy 2, The Golden Arrow, a few movies in with him, I knew him really well. He knows when he directs me differently than he directs Ron Perlman or Selma Blair. We all have different personalities and respond to different things. He knows if he can make fun of me and make me laugh, that I'll know what he's talking about and we'll get it right the next time. So we're doing a Hellboy 2. There's this tracking shot going around me, and he had nothing to cut away to, so I had to get all the action done by the time the camera got around to here. So it was a lot of props. I was making my eyes and my gills look pretty for the princess. That was kind of my semi-love interest in that story. And I wanted to get the goggles and the respirator off of me so that I could let her see my beautiful fish form. And so I'm trying to do all this. So it's prop, this, that. And the camera's going around me. And after take one, Guillermo says, "Cut! Doug Jones, you're boring me to tears." Okay, so I knew what to do. I picked up the pace, I made it more interesting, and we got it in the second take. Yeah. He knows he doesn't want to spoil the soup if it tastes good already. So when I played the fawn in Pan's Labyrinth, for instance, he came up to me one time. There's actually a famous picture of the two of us together, side by side, looking at each other in profile. With me done up as the fawn with my curly horns, and him kind of sitting in front of me with his hands on mine. And that was a moment where he came over we're a week and a half into the shoot, and he said, "I know you've not heard much from me, my friend. That's because you're getting it right. I'll let you know when you're not." You know what I'm saying? That's how he directs. So, I mean, to give an actor that much freedom and to trust us that much, that he's my fave in the whole world. And when I get it wrong, he'll let me know. Right? When I'm boring him to tears, for instance. Yeah, exactly.
Do you have a very favorite Del Toro project that you worked on?
Well, oh gosh.
I know they're all very different.
They are.
Yes.
And I cannot pick a favorite character, so if anybody wants to ask that, please don't. I can't answer it.
But I know characters is the whole experience.
As a whole movie goes.
Right.
I'm going to lean to our most recent one, The Shape of Water, because I'm a hopeless romantic. And to have a monster on the cover of film that makes Best Picture at the Oscars that year, it was kind of unheard of. And to have a monster human sort of love story that ends with them happily ever after instead of the monster getting killed. Come on now, that was unique and lovely, and I do cherish that movie so much. Yeah.
And out of curiosity, are you fellas horror fans? And what are some horror movies that you like?
Big fan of the Hocus Pocus.
That's not a horror movie.
I'll tell you, because this is within the past year. So I have two young boys of a 5 and 7-year-old, and I didn't grow up a horror fan. And my 7-year-old discovered first Godzilla, and then we moved to Creature from the Black Lagoon. And the world of the Universal monsters just opened up, and it began with his obsession with the Creature from the, and he wanted to watch it over and over again. And there were the spin-offs, but then going into Dracula and all of the Invisible Man, and then so like, this is what the whole Universal monster thing is about. I love those films now. They're so beautiful, and there's a magic that you can tell has, even with the Shape of, I mean, it's like you feel those first movies and how they influenced and created the entire genre. Yeah, so I'm a fan of those originals.
Yeah, me too. I'm a Universal Monsters original. My first horror movie I ever saw was The Mummy with Boris Karloff on a Friday night show. I grew up in Indianapolis, Indiana, not too far from here, and we had Sammy Terry every Friday night. Dressed up as a ghoul on our TV, and so I would go do slumber parties at my best friend's house, and we'd stay up late and watch scary movies because my mom would never allow that at our house. So Boris, and then The Creature from the Black Lagoon was my second horror film ever, and I just was so enamored with him. I thought he was so beautiful, and the water scenes, and which oddly enough come full circle with my career. But then more modern, I don't like blood splatter on the wall is not my thing, but I like psychological unsettling, like The Sixth Sense, where something wasn't quite right and you find out at the end why. or The Others with Nicole Kidman. I love that. It was also something wasn't quite right, and you find out why at the end. So those are my kind of favorite thing.
Dexter. I actually got to say that that was the first binge watch. When I understood what binge watch was, I couldn't go to sleep, and I was so scared but so happy. I love blood splatter. Apparently, a lot of that. I analyzed it. And the new season, how they brought it down. I'm so grateful that it had to happen.
Yeah. Well, I love that we have two Creature fans here, because I also love the Creature from the Black Lagoon. But at my desk at work, at my office job, I have a little Creature figure sitting in front of my monitor. So when I get upset, it makes me happy. I know that's really weird.
Not to anybody here, it's not weird.
Yes, I also had a Chucky doll on my desk too, but they made me take him down. So I was scaring the attorneys. not even lying. It scared the attorneys that I worked for, and I'm like, oh come on, Wes. I would love to know from you all three, who inspires you? It could be professionally or personally.
That's a good question. Great question. Go ahead, Doug. I have a good sense of, I have good peripheral vision. Yeah. Go, you got it. Because I needed some time.
You need some time?
Yeah.
Okay, good. But honestly, for me, it was Monsters second, but Comedians first.
Yes,
Honestly.
I can see that.
Because the early days, being a tall, skinny, goofy kid in Indiana, and other kids making fun of you for your long, skinny neck, and then you watch Don Knotts on the Andy Griffith Show, and you're like, oh, that's my people, right? And he's a series regular on a show. Maybe that's where I belong. So I Love Lucy, The Mary Tyler Moore Show, Bob Newhart, Gilligan's Island, Gilligan, come on now, Gomer Pyle, Gomer, goofy people on film, Jerry Lewis movies, come on. That kind of helped inform who I am today. And if you see any moments that are quirky or funny even infused into a monster, that's where those moments came from. Yeah, but I play anyway. Yeah.
I get, for me, I will start by saying my dad, of course, was an inspiration to me, and in music, he taught me music and how to play and how to sing, and then just being a good man to my mother and our family. That's, I think, my most inspiring, and I'm named after him as well. So, as far as movies and stuff, I think my all-time favorite movie is Back to the Future.
Yeah.
And I just think, I love the whole traveling back in time. I'm a big fan of the 50s and 60s. I think if I could have lived in another era, it would have been around Elvis and the Beatles, early Beatles. But I realized how much that movie influenced me as an actor. Biff, like I played a lot of Biff type roles over in my career. I got that down from him, and the bully from Lucas. I don't know who that was. He was good too. But yeah, even down to the kind of guitar I like and the soundtrack of my lives, like Earth Angel and Johnny Be Good.
And like you said, Larry is an accomplished musician, singer, songwriter.
Really?
Yes. He's got, do you have your CDs with you this weekend?
I think there might be a few. I don't know. We'll have to check. But I'm online with all my music
Oh, for
as
sure.
well. But yeah, it kind of falls in the country category, but I'd just say it's just music about my life and my journey.
How long have you been doing music?
Well, I think it started in my mama's womb. She would rock me to bed and I'd sing her a lullaby. No,
I think he's kicking or strumming.
Did you just break a stick? Yeah, it started really early with, that was my first experience of getting in front of people was my dad bringing me on stage. He played in just a top, 40s dance band, and I'd just get up and sing some Elvis or Jerry Lee Lewis, So that was the beginning. I was probably 7 years old, and that was it for me.
And your inspirations?
Since I've had time to think about it.
Yeah.
Well, what's odd, I grew up without watching television or films for the most part because of my parents. And so it was a lot of storytelling. My mother, they were both teachers, and so my mother introduced us to the Grimm's fairy tales. So talk about incredible inspiration, especially the world of characters and creatures. And so
And that's also early horror. Those things
Yeah.
are scary.
If you go to the original sources of
Yes.
that's it. So I know that was a huge influence because that led to theater, where my father would direct me in a lot of plays. That's how I grew up, and I would get to have a hand in what we would. So I was the Wicked Witch in Sleeping Beauty. You know, that was my first. That was like the very beginning. Yeah, but I'll tell you what's really inspiring to me. I know I love getting the stories from strangers. I love it. I've been on this like podcast recording thing, and rather than like one session, I'm really into this like long form, getting to talk to somebody for like 6 to 8 hours.
Oh, wow.
And editing it later.
What's that?
Editing it.
Oh yes, and really the process of how you distill that, how you bring that down into a story, and just as you were talking about, like into the quirks of a character, and it's just so real to me. So I think I like that in combination, and then I mean, growing up, it was 90s were my era for films, like like Roadhouse and Point Break and Pee-wee's Big Adventure, like those, so that's all.
And then, did we have some more audience questions? You in front.
Doug, I was just wondering, how do you have some process of how you get into character?
Oh, a process of how to get into character for me. The more complicated the character is, the more process involved. Yes, as any actor would do, the script is kind of informs so much. The writer's intention, how I interact with the other characters, where I belong in the story, all that, how I push it forward. Then the next thing I'll want to do is have a chat with the director to find out what his or her quirks or idiosyncrasies, personality, attributes or they want to see in this character, physical ones as well if it's monstery. Then I'll take all this information and I'll kind of first step is to go to a room with big mirrors and a dance floor, maybe like 2 a.m. in the morning at my 24-hour fitness maybe, where I can start trying to figure out how does this character stand, walk, lunge, what does the script call for? Is he crouched? You can imagine, by the way, at 2 in the morning, you see a guy behind the glass in the dance area kind of doing this in a mirror. And there's some guy, in the weight room kind of going. So that's been kind of my story of my life.
But he's now offering Zumba course.
And teaching the creature class.
Actually, I would definitely take a creature class. Yeah. The mannerisms, I would
Honey, have you
that.
seen the new class schedule at 24-hour fitness? It's Tuesday, 7:30 p.m. slot.
And they put through the whole
Doug Jones does Zumba.
But then the costume, makeup, fittings, and tests begin, where you start seeing, okay, here you go off concept art, then it becomes molded, sculpted pieces that are glued onto you, or a suit that you slip into, zip up the back. Whatever it is, that helps also inform. Because if I practice something up here, and then the suit lets me do this, it's like, well, then I have to change what I came up with, right? So it takes a village to make a monster, and I'm the idiot village. I'm the village idiot. I'm sorry. Yeah. And there's these beautiful artists that come up with such great work, and writers and directors that are all part of the process. So thank you so much for asking, love. Yay.
Anybody else? Young man in the back. That's you.
In the purple.
Yeah.
Hey, I have a joke.
Oh.
And some of it kind of came from a kid's movie, but however, though, it's not based off of that. It's a horror movie joke. How would you describe a doll's karate?
A doll's karate?
Yes. Chucky Chan.
Okay. That was in my dad joke book. Thank you for that.
A horror dad joke.
Right.
Any other audience questions? You appear with the beautiful purple hair.
What so far has been the most complicated character for you playing, not makeup-wise, but like character role-wise?
We can all answer that one, I suppose, yeah?
Yeah.
Yeah. The most complicated character that we've ever played. Well, for me, I probably, when I have lots of physical and visual work to do, in addition to paragraphs of dialogue. If it's science fiction dialogue, that's hard enough. If it's in Spanish or French, even harder, right? So I did, Pan's Labyrinth was probably one of the toughest things I ever embarked on. And when I finally wrapped the movie and was done with it, it was like, oh, we made it. Every word came out of my mouth in the right order. Yay! You know, in addition to, so that for me, anyway.
I think one of the most challenging roles for me was I did a war movie, a World War II movie called Saints and Soldiers. It was an independent film, and we had to shoot it on a pretty low budget, so everybody was like crammed into one trailer, but we were like a band of brothers in the movie, so we got to spend a lot of extra time together, even in between, trying to keep our feet warm and stuff. But just playing, like I was a bit of a comic relief in that, or I chose to be, and but the serious tone of war and meeting the real people that went through that, it's hard to really, you know, I mean, I suffered a little bit because I had cold hands and cold feet, but I could step into a trailer, you know, and nobody was really getting killed. You know? So
That helps.
yeah. So it was, and it was the first film that I ever had to, well, a spoiler alert, die. I died in a war film. So do of most of us, but that was the challenge too, you know, to do it your own, dealing with your own death. So yeah, that was what comes to mind.
It's so funny because nothing immediately comes to mind. Because when it comes to character, I find them always different. You know, it's like there's the different psychology of them, so I wouldn't go to that for complicated. I would go more toward the one experience I had with, I've had a few with prosthetics, but doing this one film called Fire City with he was an effects creature actor, Tom Woodruff, but it was very complicated for me dealing with all of the prosthetics and the teeth and the eyes, and because it was a lower budget film, it wasn't properly handled. So I remember by day 6 of 18, my ears were they were peeled. There was blood. They were gauzing and taping it before they put the whole headpiece on, and then you got and they wouldn't take the contact lenses out. So I just remember like 12 hours. I mean, so it was complicated. I remember mostly it was like enduring, like sitting and meditating between seeing them going up like bleary-eyed as the, you know, so what Doug does, like, so I find it interesting where for you, it's like, yes, that, you know, you've done a lot of that, and then also add languages in there. It's a whole other level, but for me, the complicated does come if there's any physical hindrance, especially if it gets to your comfort. It's complicated, you know, because at the end, the performance has to be there. So you can spend a lot more of your energy. And in a way, it feeds you. In a way, I will say that, but it complicates things too, in a different way.
Excellent answers. We have time for one or two more.
I'll let you pick.
Doug?
Straight in the back there, the nice lady.
Yeah.
I guess I'll follow that up with what was, I guess, Doug's most challenging as a monster, like physically. What was your most challenging?
The farther you get from human, the more challenging it's going to be. One of the most hideous things I ever wore, as far as like comfort, pain, agony, was a movie called Bug Buster. Never heard of it? Of course you haven't. One person has, because she looks up everything I've been in. But You haven't because it's horrible. And I played the mother bug in Buster. Yes. No. Yeah. George Takei's in it, and
Thinking of Star Trek.
right, and Randy Quaid is in it.
Oh.
And he. Oh gosh. Okay, so when I finally revealed at the end of the movie, there's a town being infested by these killer insects of some sort. They're like, people are dying off. They bring in some guy, a former general from the army who's now like a vigilante against like acts of nature. Randy Quaid with co-pilot glasses and like a crazy attitude. Let's kick some bug ass. So he leads a team of a few people out to a cave outside of town, and they get into the cave, and there's the mother bug protecting her pile of eggs. So that's me. With a stinger coming out my ass, wings, 6 legs. The head was up here. I was looking through netting that had fur coming out of it, and it was like, oh my gosh. Oh, embarrassing. Yes. Okay, I can say that because I didn't really. Yeah, you pulled it up, did you? Good. Okay.
Well, now we all have to watch it.
And if we could all send the director a note letting them know that Doug did not like that.
It's okay. No, that's
You don't
one.
mind that.
Yeah, we didn't click. It's okay. It's okay.
We need to bring it back.
So can I tell you what happened with Randy Quaid in that scene?
Yes.
Okay, so he has weapons with him, and he's like there you are. Bang, bang, bang. Bullets don't kill me. Okay. He pulls out like a flamethrower. I don't burn. He pulls out a CO2 gun. I don't freeze. Like, all right, throws everything down. Just you and me, mano y mano. And that's when it got weird. So I have 6-foot pinchers on my 2 arms, are like stuffed into these long, with fiberglass blades on them, like pinchers, like a praying mantis kind of a thing. And so I was telling, I could barely, my head's up here. I'm like, Randy, careful. We're gonna be swinging. We had all this choreography, fight scene around rolling, bouncing off walls of the cave, rolling on the ground. Careful, because these are kind of sharp. They're like knife blades. I'm sure it'll be fine, Doug. Don't worry. We got it, buddy. Do what you gotta do. Action. Bouncing up there, rolling on the ground. We end up on the ground with me on top of him, like, and then cut. These people had to come pull me off and put me back on my bug chair. Well, right, because I couldn't sit in the chair. The stinger. So then I asked one of the helper people, can you go check on Randy? I didn't see him get up. So from across the cave, I heard, Doug, buddy, I'm okay. It's Randy. Don't worry. You keep doing what you got to do. I guess he's okay. The next voice I heard was a 20-year-old production assistant going, can I get some ice over here? I can't stop the bleeding. I had gashed both of his forearms. He was like bloodletting in front of him. Anyway, so he lived through it. He was like, they bandaged him up. He went back for take 2. He did.
And he told you, he's like, I'm good.
We're good to go. Yeah. Let's shoot this thing.
What a trooper, though, right?
Trooper.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Well, guys, thank you so much. I know we didn't get to everybody, but you can visit them at their tables. I'm sure you can answer your questions there. Thank you, gentlemen.
Thank you. Thank you.